Look, it's time for Bring It In. It's our little from home quarantine show on TrueHoop. How's everybody doing?
Why do you keep calling us little?
Oh, the show's little.
What's a big show?
Oh, that's a great question.
Wrestler.
Whatever you can imagine, David. Have you seen Hamilton?
I mean, I feel like everyone's little but big from their homes at this point in time, right?
Oh, we're Titans. We're Titans. They put us on the Zoom. That's all.
Okay.
Wait till we get out this piece. Wait till we get out.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine us not in our bedrooms.
Wait till we're let off punishment.
So it's a big day. It's like the 38th day people have said the NBA is back, and let's go with it. When they agreed to action in the bubble, when people arrived in the bubble, and now it's the day of first scrimmage. Does that count as the NBA is back?
Yes. Woo!
Good.
It's a magic scrimmage.
Yes, actual hoops. How many days of scrimmage? Well, until the actual season starts?
I think July 31st is the first real game.
Okay.
Oh, I think it's the 30th, maybe.
Or 30th, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 30. It's the 30th.
And as you guys mock these games, I'm watching from 3:30 till 10 o'clock straight.
No,
I've already checked in with my family. They can come in and visit me if they want to in the office, but I'll be watching straight. So let's be a little bit tender about this subject.
I was wondering, is League Pass going to be free? I feel like it should be.
Oh no, it's not free. Let me tell you.
But they're not recharging us, are they, Jarod?
They're not recharging, but it's like, they pause charging because they're like, oh, well, whatever. Season's not happening. Money's back coming out of the account. It's like, hey, man, we got games again. And I'm like,
but are the games on NBA TV today? I thought they were. And
So I'm glad you asked it. Magic Clippers at 3 o'clock on NBA TV, Pelicans and Nets, but then Wizards, Nuggets, and Kings Heat are on local TV.
Which means League Pass.
Which means League
Pass. Oh, okay. Good to know.
Get your clicker ready, David.
Oh, I'm good. That's the one problem we won't be having is watching all the games.
David has 38 TVs, and in the end, David ends up with a tremendous amount of video on his phone, which always freaks me out. I can't watch basketball on my phone, but he'll send me this grainy Euro footage, and he's like, see this pick and roll action? I'm like, no, I don't even know.
I can't.
Is that basketball? It could be water polo. Like, what the hell is that?
Water polo.
Too much.
All right, Adena, you are the special correspondent on the spot. Let's do this.
Let's check in what people are up to, bubble, non-bubble. Speaking of bubble, did you guys see that the minds behind the NBA bubble Twitter accounts were revealed? I kind of felt like, I was like, damn, I don't want to follow this anymore. I mean, not that I don't like them, but like the whole mystery was like, who's that? But
it's Trey. I like Trey's doing this.
Yeah, they're great people. I'm still following, and half the content I got for today is from the bubble account. So shout out to them for making my life easy. First up, the Undefeated put together this clip of players who, in their media availability, all they are doing is talking about Breonna Taylor. And I think we've all been saying, like, how are they going to keep topics top of mind and top of conversation? And so we've got Tobias Harris, Jeremiah Grant, and Dwight Howard.
We want to make sure that Daniel Cameron will arrest the cops and the officers involved with Breonna Taylor's death. And that's all I got to say.
It's great to have my teammates here. It's great to be here playing basketball. But at the same time, I want to keep the focus on what's really important. And Breonna Taylor murderer still are roaming around free.
One of the cops just posted a picture of himself at the beach. How could you have a conscience? You killed somebody. So let's not forget why we are here. We're going to use our platform to discuss the things that we want to talk about. And we're not going to allow anything to distract us from, the topics that need to be discussed.
That's going to be my answer for every question.
Fair enough.
For Daniel Cameron to step up and to do what's right. And that's the only message I got today. Appreciate everybody. Thanks.
Thought it was a good look. I will say personally, as someone who's always scouring the internet for these segments and just because I like doom scrolling, I feel like the attention is taken away and that we're not doing enough right now. Maybe when the season starts, we'll see more. I just feel like the clips that we would show with people marching and things people had to say earlier, it's kind of dissipating, but maybe we'll see when the season starts. D Wade wore this shirt on the arena, which is is a new show on TNT with Carrie Champion as the host, and D Wade's one of the on-air talent. And this is the number to Daniel Cameron's office, the Attorney General in that state. And actually, the mailbox was full with people calling, demanding for her killers to be arrested. And I'm just wondering, what is it going to take for this to happen? I love hearing the players speak up, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be working on this side, which is unfortunate. Next up, on a lighter note, slam ball. I don't know if any of you have ever played slam ball.
My son plays this a lot.
I've never played it. I don't know if it's just because like no room in the house or whatever, but people are like, I would pay to see an NBA player slam ball tournament. They're really
I've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, NBA players slam.
It's unfair because they all have 7'1" wingspans, or they're super quick, or both. And I've seen people like my son and his friends who are pretty athletic, and they're so frustrated. They're like, they said to me one point, they said, "Coach, we beat every bum that's on the beach." I'm like, "Yeah, these guys are NBA players. Like, of course you're gonna lose to these guys. They're not bums on the beach. They're freaks. They're athletic freaks."
Out how their 7-foot wingspan actually works for this game.
Oh, it's crazy. Better on the beach where they can dive.
Luka had the dive. What is the exact point of the game, and how are you getting points, Coach?
You just have to be able to hit the net, and the other team can't. You can actually sit like bump set spike kind of volleyball. They weren't doing it really the right way, but you can set yourself up and hit it sideways and everything, and it's got to hit the net, not the side of it. And that's the issue is these guys are so long they can get low. Like on the beach where my son plays, they're diving all the time like beach volleyball. And these athletes they're so agile, quick and long, and they have instinct, and they're NBA players. So they figured out, they've never played before. They figured out in like 11 seconds. And then they start strategizing, and then it's just funny. Yeah, I could have won a lot of money if I was eager to.
There's someone who we all know who like just was irate with me that we as a family don't play this game. We just don't have it. And she was like going on and on about like, come on, like you gotta step it up, like super mad. And it was Jackie McMullen.
So I knew you were gonna say that right away. Yeah.
But it's not really, and this is my last question about slam ball because I'm super interested in like go buy one. It's not really like a drunken person's game though, right? Like that's what I thought it was at first, but no, this seems like you gotta be on for it.
I've seen competition on ESPN.
Oh.
Yeah.
Slam ball for the Olympics. Done. Set. Let's go. Next up, gotta let it play out. Chris Paul. I cropped this picture. I'm sorry, I forget who actually tweeted it. The NBA tweeted it first, but the person who cropped it, they said that Chris Paul looks like one of the members of the Five Bloods. I don't know if you guys have seen that Spike Lee movie yet. That's up, but he looks like. He looks like he gives 5 on the black hand side, and he's like, cool cat. Like just like one of those old hit black men. But everybody's getting a shake for the bubble, fingerless gloves and all. Looking good. Ninja headband too.
Love it, CP.
Yeah, CP. And then because Hoops is back, I don't know who's keeping the official counter of how many times we say it. But Hoops is back. This clip that the Rockets put up, it really got me hyped. And it's just James hitting 3 after 3 after 3, but
and he's felt.
Yeah, to this super eerie music, and I was like, it's back. And it's just something about hearing, and Coach, you're probably the same, like hearing the squeaks on the court, hearing the ball bounce. I'm like, we're here, we're back. There we go. About an anti-hype tape.
In the movies, if you hear that music, someone's getting murdered.
Right?
That's the thing, right? I feel like if you're guarding and James Harden's coming at you, that's the music you hear in your head. You're like, oh, shit.
Actually,
You're getting murdered.
yeah, you're actually witnessing an attempted murder. That's what's happening. So got me super hype, and shout out to the Rockets team for that edit. I'm always here for it. And then lastly, Henry, you mentioned it already. Like,
I ruined it. I'm sorry.
it's all good. This is coach's schedule for the day. Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't tweet him. No, don't. This is us for the day. So game I'm looking forward to, Pelicans Nets. Really, I'm looking forward to everything, but definitely Pelicans Nets, and then the 3 o'clock game, Magic Clippers. So those are the ones I'll be glued to. If if my league pass is paid up, which I will. And then definitely on NBA TV. That's all I got.
David, if you were a coach, do you play your best players in these scrimmages?
It's like everybody's already putting their lives at risk anyway. So it's like, yes, let's go ahead because everybody needs to practice. Yes, I'm playing them. So I hope they give us the entertainment that we desire. What about you?
I would play them more in the first game, the second game, than the third game, because I just think it's been a long time and there's just a lot of rust they're going to have to get off. I just wouldn't put any value to how we do or how the individuals do. I tell them, in fact, I talked to a player this morning who's playing today. I don't care if you miss every shot. Like, don't even think about it. Just play. Just play the game the way it's supposed to be played without thinking about the consequence of your actions.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. They literally don't count. The mistake you'll make is not doing some things because you missed the last shot, whatever. That's not the way the game's supposed to be played. Play the game the right way. Deal with the consequences when the games count next week.
Agreed.
Should we talk about Jarod's story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was so good, Jarod. I forgot that you wrote it. I read it on my phone.
That's for sure an insult.
I read it on my phone, and just typically on a Wednesday morning, you think it's Henry. It was so good. I just figured it was Henry's because I've always read Henry's article.
Well, Jarod might be better than me at this, David.
Well, look. Shouts to Henry and Jessica, the best editors on planet Earth. I literally sent Henry a text being like, Henry, these are how my English professors used to talk to me and critique my.
You were very rough with Jarod, I learned.
And so I'm like, so it's really okay. And because I always wanted them to challenge me to make me a better writer. So it was wonderful that I got that from.
Yeah, it was great
from Jessica. And yeah, well, so we got this whole big G League select team coming out, and like, what is happening? Like, I just don't understand what's going on. And even after talking to people and writing it, I maybe know 10% more of what's happening. The questions we brought up. So this money, where did it come from? Like, right? I mean, yes, the NBA, but like we're in the middle of a pandemic. They laid people off, but here's some cash to keep these guys here, right? And it seems that if you kind of follow the timeline, and I had a different lead work then, which I can tell you guys about now. I like imagine Adam Silver like sitting in his office being like, what the hell? Why do these players keep going overseas and not playing in the G League? And then he grabs his cell and calls Shreep and he's like, we got to fix this. And next thing we know, we got $500,000 a year, $1,000 a year contracts coming out, and these players are all staying here, right? And the thing that turned it was, in the reporting, finding out like not a lot of agents were privy to what was going on, and then all of a sudden, Aaron Goodwin signs one of the best players in the 2020 high school class, and it's like, well, wait a minute, like, did you other agents know about this? No. And then all of a sudden, when they go, oh, but wait. Aaron used to rep Sharif, who was the G League president. They put 2 and 2 together really quickly, and we're like, okay, we got it. We figured it out. This is how this works. And by the way, I want to be clear. I don't necessarily, there's nothing wrong per se with that. Like, that's how all work and business works. When your friends know something, they tell you first before everybody else knows. That's just how life works. The problem is that do the larger body of the agents feel like, well, if we had known about this, we would have done it differently. XYZ is the case. But there's so many questions that we all have. And Coach, you and I talked about this, like from a development standpoint, what is going to be happening? Games are so important for young guys to play. And we already know they're not playing a lot of games. And then who is in charge of their skill development is one thing. But the thing that I know you talk about a lot, Coach, their development as human beings and as people. Like what is their day like? After practice and weight room and film, like what are you doing the rest of the day?
Right.
Like, you hanging out? What's the deal?
Well, just think about this. You guys were making fun of, I mean this in a good way. You're making fun of the scrimmages today because they're not really games. Of course, you're right. Well, the way you've described it, there won't be any games for these players. Like, they're playing no games. You can call it a game, but just use air quotes. They're just scrimmages. They mean nothing. There's no value to anything. There's no consequence at all to anything that they're doing. They're going to be
That's
still
way beyond making fun, David. That's like just savaged.
It is. I mean, what's the worst thing to happen? Then they might get yelled at. Like, there's no demotion possibility. There's nothing. And you didn't mention. I remember reading Sam Mitchell's name.
Because when in my reporting, I had asked about that, and that was the name we were hearing, but Sharif that was not a name that Sharif would commit to, and then that name nobody else said, were like, nope, that's not an official name.
So that's a change.
Yeah, that changed it. Because that was the name we were hearing at first.
It's a good change.
Yes.
So I feel better now than I did 3 minutes ago before hearing that, because he's not someone I would ever let anywhere near any player for a developmental purpose. He seems like a nice, fun guy. I've talked to him on his show before. I wouldn't want him to coach my son. Brian Shaw, I don't know about. I don't know how he's going to be, but no one man can save anything. This is a doomed idea, guys, that does have real potential. It can get much better, and by no stretch of the imagination should you feel like college has it all figured out or overseas does either.
Right.
Because over there's consequences. We've had G League people on. We had Ryan Pannone on, Henry, my former assistant. They fire guys fast overseas.
Yeah.
Losing matters hugely. And I think that helps, bake the cake a little bit better. There's no consequences now. So they're going to have to figure it out as they go, I guess.
Is there something to be said, though, for, like, one of those great quotes I put on my fridge? It's like, participate in life as if failing was not an option, right? There's no way to fail here. There's no pressure to put up certain numbers to make a playoff. Can that be beneficial to players? I just think about the stress.
No. In parts, absolutely. Like, everything shouldn't have a life or death situation. But having zero accountability to teenagers, speaking as someone who has two at home, there's better things. I think they'll figure it out. I really do. It just won't be anytime soon.
David, they won't have long because high schools will be allowed in the NBA in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
right.
And then what's the point of this program then, right? Like, it just seems like
exactly
like a weird stopgap method. Yeah. And those were the questions we were I was asking and trying to figure out. How, why, how is this going to work? And I want to be clear, Rod and Sharif are good guys. And
I know Rod. I coached his son.
They want this to work, but it almost seems like, all right, why don't we just do this really quick for now? And then in 2 years anyway, when we let the high school kids in, whatever, it'll be all good.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from your story, Jarod, and one of the fundamental questions I had was kind of answered, which was, I believe from your reporting that they're solving the problem of a trend of people going to Australia or similar, right? Like it wasn't a Brandon Jennings here or there anymore, right? It was, a big number of top 10 prospects going to mostly Australia, but also other places. And a lot of people just avoiding the NCAA, like Anthony Simons did, all these different kind of experiments people are doing with concocting a year, right? So to me, that was the thing, was like, no, they have this creepy decades of handshake agreement with the NCAA, right? That's been a little bit, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And that was breaking. So it's like, okay, well, let's not have them go to Australia. So we're going to keep them here. What we will do with them here, well, we'll figure that out later. But the main thing is they need to go to Australia. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it helps.
Theory is,
how does it help the league? This is to Jarod's point, paying this money to players and having no real ownership as an NBA of their development. I don't know how it benefits them as opposed to them going to college or Europe or Australia. I don't know how it benefits them more.
I wonder if you can market them.
Here's the one thing that I see, and again, nobody would confirm this, but sort of just me talking to people and putting it together. The NBA, at least from an ownership perspective, wants to stop. It's like we always talk about saving the owners from themselves and making bad mistakes when it comes to drafting and all that sort of thing, right? So they want to protect themselves from making these Anthony Bennett type of mistakes that they've made in the past. And the idea that I think will happen is that you have access to all this tape and scrimmage and all that. And when I talked to Sharif about that, he was like, well, I mean, they can get all that access from college. I'm like, yeah, but it's different. Like, NBA people, it's not a big fraternity. They all talk. If Jalen Green has a bad practice, how quickly do you think it's going to be before someone gets on the phone and is like, oh, man, he's been out here looking at workout, not looking great. And that filters out to everybody else. And now, well, instead of him going 2 or 3, probably going to pick him 7 or 8, right? I think it's helping them on a money aspect of where they make bad decisions and having closer intel and better insight into what's going on with these guys every day. That's what I see from an NBA perspective.
That's going to get agents fired.
Probably.
Because you could be hit. Normally, you're trying to hide their issues, and you're saying they're not going to be able to hide them.
But it's like, okay, like Rod Strickland and William Wesley go way back. Yeah. Like, if Rod Strickland knows something about a player that Wes wants to know about the Knicks, like, he's not going to tell him. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like I feel like this is like he's going to tell him. Like, I have to believe that. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but it seems unlikely he'd be like, well, there's a protocol. We have to tell every team equally. Like, I don't really see that happen. Here's my little theory. You can't go wrong projecting the NBA, like trying to understand their thinking if you expect them to do the thing that makes them the most money like this month, right? And I think it occurred to me only after spending a few days marinating with Jarod's story and then publishing it this morning. Something I'm like, oh, they have a deal. Like, it's going to be the Nike select team or the Adidas select team, and that's going to pay the salaries. Boom, right there. Adidas pays much more than this to colleges to get their shoes on these players. And then I'm going to go one more, which is the league has a hard time reaching young consumers. We've talked about it many times, right? The reality show of this team living in a big house in LA, like,
yes,
it's going to happen. Like, whether it's Instagram from the players' phones or whether it's with cameras, but like, this is going to be a soap opera. And this will be how the league attempts to reach. Come on, this is 12 guys in a house in LA trying to make their NBA dream come true. Like,
it's the real world.
Is the best thing the league has
12
done.
guys, 12 in a house.
That's what's going to happen.
NBA TV's actually struggled with that. They have like real training camp. I've always wanted a Hard Knocks NBA edition, and I've asked for that, but they do like real training camp. I'm like, that's not the same thing. It's just like a GoPro sitting on the court. Like, I need this. But like, I agree with you, Henry. It's any way that they can market these players and make money off of them, not necessarily actually developing them. I think it's really like, we have them, no one else can have them, and that's what they're doing.
It's not Friday, but I have to give it a nod today. Shouts to the capitalist machine, because number one band in the world always sells out.
Undefeated, untied, and unbelievable.
Sold out shows.
I will say, I coached against Sharif in a semifinal of a national championship when he was a rising junior in high school. That's how old I am and him. He was amazing. He scored 21 against us in the first half, but did commit a foul to lose. We hit 3 free throws to beat them by 1, and he fouled our guy. And I coached Rod's son Terrell and coached against his older son Tay. They're both fine men. These are good people. They are nowhere close to being experts at developing young people outside of, I think, Rod's sons are wonderful kids. So that says something. His wife's also fantastic. This is a whole nother animal, guys. This is young people with a little bit of money compared to what they'd be making in a year, with no purpose, really. They're not, there's no collective aim. It's like an AAU team, right? A traveling band of AAU guys. There's a lot of potential problems here. When Henry said drama, like, it really hit me. Like, yes, there is going to be a ton of drama because literally they're not competing with each other on their own team, but they are for the draft, which is unlike most situations in college where you rarely have a teammate you're competing with for a spot. It happens. You're competing against everyone else that you're playing in the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12. This is your own teammate. Maybe same position that you're fighting for that draft spot. It's going to be, it's going to be a soap opera for sure.
It's NBA Survivor.
Yes.
Right.
I'm here.
They haven't decided yet. I mean, we've heard LA, people I've talked to on and off the record, like, I've been here in LA, but Sharif and the NBA would not confirm LA. But it seems to me that, that's a likely spot where it would be.
LA or Vegas.
Something like that.
Please not. Don't take children to Vegas.
LA or Vegas. Just book it. Book it. You got to sell them on something. The agent taking some risk too with it. But your point is right. It's going to be over soon. I mean, because of the high school kids going right to the pros, as they should. And I also wonder, too, just like what do they do when something doesn't go well? I have concerns about that. When a player sees his stock plummet, do you start playing him more? And that's why one reason why you need to play more games. You got to keep them happy. And the other thing is the G League is right now the world's best league is the NBA. Then you have the Euro League, the Euro Cup in terms of international competition. Euro League's a little bit in the Euro Cup, but all the teams are very, very good, just not NBA level. And then you look at the domestic leagues. The ACB in Spain is probably the best domestic league. The G League, talent-wise, I watched all the leagues this year. I think it's as good as any league, pure talent. They're just players who are young and stupid because they're young and stupid. Again, same as the NBA. Rookies don't know how to play yet. Yeah. None of them almost know how to play. But the talent overwhelming. Like these guys in the right situation can be very, very good NBA players who are in the G League starters. I mean, you can see the examples every year. Siakam played the G League his first year. Duncan Robinson with the Heat. There's a ton of them now. I wonder, Henry, if maybe they're thinking, okay, we're only going to have a few years of collecting this incredible 18-year-old talent before they go right to the NBA. But there might be such a surplus, which there will be, that they will just take them when they're not drafted and let them be. And this league, they compete with all the best leagues in the world. We just won't be quite as experienced, but talent-wise, and maybe they can make some money on it because they're going to be incredible. They're fun to watch.
Way to bring attention to the G League. And David, you do this for a living. So like, I imagine that like, you're like a doctor looking at like a dirty surgery happening. And you're like, oh, there's going to be infections, right? So like I hear you. Here's the thing though. The thing I do like about it is the NBA's basically washed its hands of player development, right? They're like, just bring us the best players in the world and we'll take it from there, right? This is the first time they're kind of owning it, but they're like, like we think that we should, like European soccer, a million other things, baseball, we should be responsible for taking really good prospects and turning them into players, and we're going to pay for that time. Like that's new, and that's probably at least asking the right question.
Yeah, and this didn't make the story, but it's kind of out there already. What Sharif wants to do is right now there's 28 G League teams. They want 30 because they want every NBA franchise to have a minor league team to follow more of that kind of traditional model that we know of, where it's like, okay, if this player needs some more skill work or whatever, he can go down here to the G League, work on that, and we can bring him back up and shuttle him and do that sort of thing. That's what they want to do. So this seems like, a piece and a cog as you get towards that point where every NBA franchise has its minor league team and you can deal with your development there. But as I asked in the story, is the NBA good at development? And, Coach, we've talked about that, talked to a lot of people, and they're really not, right? Like, you come in and you really got to really be kind of good already on your own, or you're working with someone like Coach Thorpe or whatever, off in your private time, and you come back and that's how you get better. But the league as a whole, they don't have time for development.
No, Masai's done a good job in Toronto. Maybe they have the best. I think he calls it the accelerator program. They really value it. I know because of my relationship with Pannone, I know the Pelicans totally get it and spent a lot of time thinking about even who they wanted to hire for that position and how they filled out their coaching staff and everything. And they want to move the team. I'm not sure what's official, but I don't think they're going to be in Erie after this year. Toronto, like Masai was telling me, he can work out his guys all day at their G League team and then bring them over to their game that night. Well, Utah, I think it's a 40-minute drive, but you can't go to Erie, Pennsylvania to catch a Pelican game the same day. And there's a lot of teams that are similar. Yeah. That's got to change. You got to start building your facilities where they're all kind of in the same franchise. And then you can really have some progress. Plus, they'll see these NBA players, maybe learn from them a little bit vicariously, as well as maybe get some buy-in from the coaching staff, because right now there isn't much of that.
David, Caleb was really upset that they're moving. Are they moving? Are you making news here on the breaking
news? I think they only have an agreement for one more year. I don't know if they're moving or not. But I don't think they're locked in beyond just one more year. It's a great place in the sense that there's nothing else to do, and quite frankly, it's something we used to always sell. Our area here is, if you like beaches, is great, but it's not New York City or LA. And I like that. Like I want these guys to think about basketball when they're here. I get guys from all over the world that come. They're here to get better at basketball. So if you play in some of these G League cities, I'm all for the idea that there's not a lot of stuff to do outside of that G League team. But it would be nice for them to be able to watch their NBA team play, especially the two-way players or the exhibit 10s that are making a little extra money, or the roster guys that get moved down, which, Henry, I think is ultimately where they're going to be going to, is there's just so much talent. You're going to have the G League filled with really good players, and I think eventually the NBA is going to own all of them like Major League Baseball does.
That would be so cool. So let's pretend that Alvin Gentry and Ryan Pannone work in one building and have 28 players or whatever together to choose from, right? Then I think a while ago when Derrick Rose was coming back from injury and was really injured, like he really wasn't playing. His career was basically over. It appeared. He ended up, obviously, he made a great turn.
Right.
But during that period, David said to me on Troop TV, and people thought that he was just trolling Derrick Rose. He's like, he should go play in, I think, what was in the D League, now the G League, because it's a perfect place to get your body right? Get some reps. And everyone thought it was like an insult, but it's like, no, it's not an insult. It's a very good place for someone you don't want to be guarding those point guards when you're Derrick Rose and injured, right? Like
they do it in baseball with
the
the world's best pitchers who make way more money than Derrick Rose, right? And they're having to pitch against teenagers in some cases. They're trying to rehab. If you can't strike those guys out, trouble. Right? So this is why you do it. So I think eventually that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. Okay, we have a million topics. Adena, why don't you pick? We have a bunch in the document. I could rattle some off for you. We can talk about Sam Smith. We can talk about the very wide event I went to last night. We can talk about.
I don't want to take Adena's thunder, but I hope she says the Maxwell story.
Maxwell story.
Wait, as in like Maxwell?
Oh, Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah.
Oh, I
don't want to run out of time because I'm dying to hear all of your opinions on that.
Or we can do this one in 2 seconds.
Let's do that, yeah.
We'll be right back to you in a second, Adena. So basically, Judy, do you mind? There's just 2 quick tweets here, but our dear president said basically like he wishes Ghislaine Maxwell well, and Anthony Scaramucci, who knows the president pretty well, says something kind of obvious sounding here. And then also Ellie Honig is the other tweet. Same thing, same idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, duh. So just be clear what's happening there.
Pretty obvious.
Roger Stone literally said before his sentence was commuted that I didn't speak so that my sentence will be commuted, and other people didn't do that. And it's exactly what happened. I mean, they're blatantly doing it right in front of our face. And for him to say that, I figured that's what you'd say, Henry, but I wanted to hear it anyway. So that's what
I had well-connected people and attorneys say it. I didn't say shit.
It is something, boy.
But I'll say these are not like, hypothetically, if you spent years in the mob, these aren't new ideas, right? Like to us, we're like, oh my gosh, it could mean this, and it's like, no, like other people see this and like, yeah, no, that's how you do that. Of course, it's not new. Yeah.
That was good. Okay, Adena, I'm sorry.
All right, Adena,
let's roll with Timberwolves ownership change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's old news. They've been talking about it for years. He's been trying to sell the team for years.
But not publicly. He hasn't committed to it in
Maybe
public.
not. Yeah. I definitely know he's been entertaining owners for years, trying to get them to buy. And I guess this is now it's more public, but maybe it'll happen. It'd be nice for Minnesota. It's a lovely players love living there. It's very safe. You stay indoors a lot. It's really a great place. They just are terrible for so long.
My one thought is the city of Seattle says to the city of Minneapolis, oh, really? The team's going to commit to stay there? Like, they had that same agreement in writing in Seattle. Like, it was, I don't count on that at all. The city's going to go wherever the new owner wants it to go, like, period. Right? And everything.
KG's one of the dudes who's behind this potential group.
On one group. There's more than one group.
Okay. Do we know anything else about the KG group?
But
yeah,
he
there's one
also
group.
wouldn't have that much buying power in this group. He probably has a lot of kind of Queen of England, head of state,
Right.
say because because he's such a figurehead. But in terms of the money he's bringing,
right?
KG, who sued his accountant for the missing $75 million.
Yes.
So yeah, he's gonna be the Queen of England. I love that.
Queen of England, that's good.
Kind of reminds me of like Jay-Z with the Nets, and also Jay-Z owns the Nets. I'm like,
You're like, not really.
Yeah.
But Brooklyn, you know, so it's gonna be like that.
Yeah, he'll throw a couple of dollars in.
Yeah, for sure. More than I could. Like I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm no
just always know this is gonna go right into Jarod's wheelhouse. But anytime a team is for sale, there's lots of billionaires that want to be part of it. So most of them keep their business under wraps for reasons we all know. In this case, obviously, this is one person with KG. They're talking about it, but there are other people behind the scenes angling to get this team and always have been. And so maybe it'll sell, maybe it won't. The Taylor's going to have to allow, he's going to have to sell it for the price that they want, not that he wants. And if he wins that, he's not going to sell it. Like, he's got to let them win it. He's got to get them the price they want on their timetable. What owners are dying to buy a team when you're not sure when you're going to have a fan walk through a turnstile?
Yeah.
You have to pay for that, right? That discount.
I've been doing my research. I watch Billions on Showtime. It's my billionaire research. And remember, he I think he wanted to buy the Giants, right? But like had to get his whole clean up his act. I'm only on season 2. But really, outside of bragging rights, I feel like teams aren't necessarily the most lucrative thing a billionaire can do.
No, they're fantastic things to own. It just takes about 10 years potentially. The Grizzlies were bought for $335. What did they sell for 6 years later? 5 years later? $1 billion.
The Timberwolves are going to sell for $2 billion.
So it's really just about the long game in sense and getting and loading it off.
Oh, Adena, you raise a point that interests me to no end.
Hey.
I would add one other little wrinkle.
There's a few wrinkles.
Say that your billion star was a full-on criminal.
Yes.
Right?
Like who, Henry?
No one.
No names mentioned. No names being mentioned.
Maybe we can find a tweet from a lawyer about it. But there is I keep talking about Adnan Khashoggi, arms dealer, wanted to buy the Jazz and almost got approved to buy the Jazz. And it's super weird. He's this guy who goes around on yachts with women paid to wear bikinis and hang around. And he wants to buy a team in the most conservative place in America. What the hell? Well, he was up. I mean, we know he was upset that every time his name was in the paper, it said arms trader Adnan Khashoggi. And he was in his death. There were a lot of articles about him being involved in money laundering, this kind of stuff. If you buy the Utah Jazz, they no longer call you arms trader Adnan Khashoggi. You're Utah Jazz owner Adnan Khashoggi, right? If you're Mikhail Prokhorov and they introduce you everywhere as oligarch Mikhail Prokhorov, suddenly you become Nets owner Mikhail Prokhorov, right? It's the kind of reputation, or frankly, for Mark Cuban, it's worked better than anyone. He's the most boring software guy ever, and now he's on Shark Tank on network. Only because he's Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, right? He made himself a celebrity. So I think this is where you have nothing but money to burn and you need a better reputation. It's a great investment. You might make money. All those stories of people making money, no one bought at these prices, right? If you buy at $335, yeah, you make money, but that's all done now.
Going forward, I don't disagree at all. I don't at all, because of all the things we've talked about on the show with potential TV issues, and now we have COVID, obviously. But yeah, in the past, as one guy told me the other day, I talked to Henry about this. This guy is very involved in helping players manage their money at professional level, kind of invented the business 30 plus years ago. He said Major League Baseball owners don't want the season to go on because they lose money.
Wow.
And yet, and that's why they're only playing 60 games when they could have had a deal a long time ago to play 100 games. They don't want to lose the money in the season. But the reason why they bought the team is because they'll lose $200,000 a year, $400,000 a year. With what they sell for it down the road, they more than make up for it. And then the other thing too, and this is sad but true, it's just the testosterone.
Yeah.
Whatever that gets you, if you're a young owner and you're at some fancy nightclub in Thailand or Los Angeles, whatever, and you own some digital company that no person ever heard of, no one gives a damn. You can buy them all the champagne you want, they don't care. But, I own an NBA team. Oh, really? And that carries. And I know for a fact this is the case because I know an owner. I think he bought a team mostly for that reason.
I know who you're talking about.
Right, yeah, I know you do. It's kind of as I told the story before. You can own the nice car and then the big house, and you got to get the helicopter, and then a plane, Okay, what's next after that? A team.
A team.
So it's all part of that capitalist machine that Jarod.
Woo! You know, now, as we're all saying this right now, I thought of something, Henry. Okay, so we talked about if you're buying teams, and there's no more teams available for $300 million anymore. Those days are long gone. Every team going to cost you at a minimum $2 billion. Okay, if you're an arms dealer and whatever, and you have, sure, you're cool. I'm going to come in with all the money I need. Is this going to mean that we're going to have, not that everything's available, but more sketchy characters coming in? Because either you're the arms dealer who has access to all the money, or you're someone who may participate in other illegal activities we won't mention, but you're not that liquid, but you have to borrow a ton of money, to, like more than or up to the limit the league allows you to borrow, like we know a certain owner down in the southern part of the country did. I'm not going to say who.
So, John, it's like you set me up, man. This is oh, what a great. I'll say this. Like, I think that if you're getting non-cash returns, right? So like if you're purchasing a thing that like Mark Cuban like really wanted to be a celebrity, like really bad. He's communicated this every which way, right? So he was like, okay, like if the balance sheet is pretty much equal, but I'm now a celebrity, like that's a win for me. So he's going to bid more, right? Because like someone, if his accountant was saying like, hey, we can expect an ROI of blank, right? We can expect to resell it for this, right? Every other bidder is going, if you're buying it as a business, then you're going to rate it at a certain level. If you're rating it as a business plus some other non-cash benefit, you can afford to bid more. So like, I do think that if you have a reputation to improve, you know, if you have a PR important, critical, or, you know, or frankly, Prokhorov has said out loud that like, he thinks that he avoided sanctions, being on the U.S. sanction list because he was known in the U.S. for this reason. That's worth I almost cursed. That's worth a lot of money. So yeah, so if you are in some position as, you know, and frankly, the shadier you are, probably more likely you are, where you need a reputation upgrade, then you might bid. So this is a downside of everything that goes to the highest bidder, right? So, and honestly, this is where I'm very proud of what we do here. Where like someone in the league office knows that as they're sifting through these applications right now, like we're going to write the story about the super shady person who they want to approve. So that's cool. I'm glad they know we're going to do that. But I wish we weren't the only ones. I'm super disappointed in our colleagues. Like there's literally barely an article over 50 years about like how shady, like they've been taking shady money since the beginning, right? This isn't like a today thing, right? Like, but it's just a rock that journalists just don't turn over because it hurts your sourcing, right? But
I do know some minority owners, meaning they own a small stake. That were great. I really have enjoyed their company and conversations over the years. They're not the face of the ownership group. They just do $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, whatever. And they've worked hard for the money in some cases anyway that I know of. They're people the NBA should be very proud of. But they are, you know, you don't ever see them.
You know, an owner that we should be proud of, I don't know if you guys seen recently, the NWSL, they're getting a team in Los Angeles, and your girl, my girl, Serena Williams, her daughter at 2 years old is now the youngest professional sports owner. I don't know how we're going to spend that in like 30 years, you know.
She's just laundering drug money.
How about Natalie Portman? Isn't she building a soccer team in LA?
Yeah. So the ownership group is vast, right? So, and literally Serena Williams, Natalie Portman, it goes on, and Serena Williams' 2-year-old daughter is one of the owners. And I was like, that's that generational wealth. That's how you set them up. But yeah, she's probably laundering money in a couple of years.
Speaking of female owners,
speaking of a 3-year-old birthday party, a stake in a team. That's a hell of a gift.
Can we talk about Adena, the female owner of a team?
Listen, man, this just gets my blood pressure like.
Sorry, Adena, I didn't mean to get you out this morning.
Go take a jog afterwards. I want to hear your thoughts.
Like skyrocket early in the morning, and I'll say what I said in the chat. Like sometimes all this cloaked racism, I wish people would just come out and like wear a hood.
Is it cloaked? Is that cloaked?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like
not to us. It's not.
Yeah, to us, but you know, people are like, well, she's right, you know, both sides. Like she said that saying Black Lives Matter and have that on the court may make people feel excluded. Are you kidding me, right? And she tries to draw a delineation between the fact that obviously all lives matter. I mean, she said, right? I can't believe I actually said that. Don't like snip me off, right? But dog in the room, and she's like, I care about African Americans, but the organization Black Lives Matter, they're about defunding the police and abolishing, and we go down the wormhole of disrespecting the flag and all that, right? So that's why she doesn't want Black Lives Matter. She's not going to change her mind, and she's not going to sell the team. She's very adamant. She's very like, come at me, bro, right now. And it's sickening in this sense. And I really wish she would just come out and say it. You should just come out and say it, that, you know, you're not here for these Black players and these athletes to be expressing their views on the court, and your money speaks louder than them.
Does anybody remember Bruce Levinson?
Yeah.
Same story.
Same
Right?
thing.
He was the owner of the Atlanta Hawks, and his emails leaked basically saying like,
Yes! I remember that.
same city, same thing. Same.
And then they hired a Black woman to fix it all. She was like, and here's our new head of diversity inclusion in Atlanta, same city, everything. You're right.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the playbook though, right? Every time these dumbass organizations do shit like that, it's like, oh, let's hire a Black person to be, here we go. We fix everything. It's all good. Like, what the fuck are you
Well,
doing?
that actually, so Kevin Arnovitz wrote one of the most brilliant articles ever about like the inside story of what happened with Bruce Levinson and this whole thing. It was way more complicated than it appeared from afar. I could talk about that all day, but one of the phrases that came out of it was the Alpharetta unicorn, which is, so Alpharetta is like this, it's a, I guess, white suburb. Is that right, Adena?
Yeah, I love it.
So the idea was that like the arena in downtown Atlanta would be filled with these Alpharetta like upper middle class white people if only the marketing was tweaked a certain way, or this, like, you know what I mean? But the actual, like, the current president of the Hawks, or CEO, Steve Koonin, was basically like, that's never going to happen. It has never happened. Like, it's just not how Atlanta works. Like we don't have a winning strategy by marketing to the Alpharetta unicorns. They don't exist anyway, right? So basically, the Hawks have actually been remarkably progressive in the last several years. And it's, I don't know if it's working or not, but it seems like the idea that you were going to do what Kelly Loft was proposing and just be like very respectful of precious white racist emotions seems like, I don't even think it's a business play. I think it's just a myth. It's just a... Yeah,
I mean, and I guess we could continue and be on some what about. I'm like, is she mad during Pride Night? Is she mad during Hispanic Heritage Night? Like, calm down, lady. There's a problem in our country, and we're going to address it by telling one group that we care about them, a group that has been just mishandled for 400 plus years, and we take 8 weeks out of our year to acknowledge them, and that's really disgusting to you.
Adena, I think I'm right saying that Kathy Engelbert's having a press conference this afternoon. I think you could call in and ask a question.
No, it's Kathy, longtime listener, first time caller. That's really good. She needs to do the right thing. I just don't understand how her boss can be Adam Silver, and he's like, yeah, we had this situation once before in the NBA. Here's what we did, right? And it not trickle down. Yeah, it's maybe this is also why politicians shouldn't own sports teams too, because here we are, once again, church and state mixing it all, right?
I'd like to see all the leagues, this is in theory, because it's never going to happen. I'd like them to say, we're all going to tell our players to please feel free to kneel during the anthem. And for all you sports fans who claim, as soon as they kneel, I'm out, well, you're saying goodbye to all sports. Rodeo, tennis, we're doing it for rodeo. You're going to have to quit all sports. You can't handle kneeling peacefully during the anthem. Well, I would just love to see that, because it just called their bluff. They're full of it.
Yeah.
That's all tied in, Coach, right? Like what Kelly's doing, all these people, as Mark Cuban called them, the anthem police and all that stuff. If we're really trying to do something and do the right thing in this country as it relates to equality and race, if you start the conversation under the guise of, no, I care about this, and your but leads to the assuagement of white people's feelings, like, we're out. Like that's not a thing. Like, it doesn't matter if they're upset, or it's irrelevant to what we are trying to accomplish as a whole, because this whole thing is going to make a lot of people upset and angry, and you're gonna have to get some hurt feelings, right? But to break a couple eggs if we're gonna make this omelet, right? That's how it goes. So you gotta just get over that stuff. And with people like Kelly Loeffler, that's what they do. It's, how do we assuage the feelings and the guilt? Nah, we don't.
No.
I want to resurrect idea that we published some post a couple weeks ago, but we got to do like the players in the bubble and the wobble need to do anonymous voting racism rankings.
Yeah.
Like rank the owners most to least racist. Like, do you guys know the story of the APGAR scores? Do you know about this? So, like, you know, when your baby's born, they score it on like how vibrant and healthy it is. And as soon as those scores existed, doctors, you know, it was subconscious, but they started just competing to have the highest APGAR score. So they just started like radically changing how the delivery happened. Bilal can attest to this. And actually it got worse for the moms. They would start doing a lot more C-sections because the C-section baby is like all pristine, but the moms had a massive surgery. But my point is, if you just post rankings on stuff, people who are these high testosterone, highly successful people, like really don't want to be ranked low.
Oh.
Like, I think you just post these racism rankings. Like I'd be interested to see how the next few weeks, Kelly Loeffler wins, right?
Yeah. And like rankings are a thing. I remember being at Bleacher Social. It's like anytime we can create an argument with rankings, know, like the NBA rankings that would come out every year, it's like instant engagement, instant arguing. Everyone loves to argue. I'm here for a racism ranking. I mean, maybe we can do our own. Obviously, we're not as close to the owners as the players are, so they'd have more intel, but an anonymous one would be dope.
Well, starting July 22nd, all the players from the 22 teams can congregate in the same facility. They could have their own little conference, tell their stories, tell their anecdotes that they personally know from their own owner or others, and then they could do the voting after the airing of grievances, as they do in Festivus. Let's air the grievances first on a final can. Air the grievances and then vote.
It'd be WNBA players to do this first. I feel like they've been way more vocal about it. And we've got technology. Like all it takes is one anonymous Google form to get this cracking, right?
Well, I read all these books on actually this book right here. I love it when I look over in the book I'm looking for. Right but it's more clever than you think, right? So let's say 5 WNBA players were in a restaurant when one WNBA did something outrageously racist, right? And no one's talked about it. This could be true. It might be true. Oh, sorry, Bilal. Here you go. There are a bunch more like it, but in these kind of rankings, if you had how many players in the WNBA? Well, in the Wobble, it's less, right? It's I don't know, a couple hundred, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So everybody's gonna rank. Everyone will rank everyone an average of a 7 out of 10 or whatever. It's just how people vote. But these 5 people who know a certain thing will rank that owner a 1. And just that little difference of 5 people ranking a 1 on this one person will move that person to the bottom of the list. It's because the crowd knows this thing and no one has to say it, but you can actually like see these things in these rankings. Anyway, I could go on and on.
I also think there should be a media input because you've been doing your due diligence of what owners are donating to campaigns or not. Like that should definitely knock you down.
Henry, I have a serious question, Henry, about that book because I haven't read the book. I know the story. Obviously, I did all the ESPN voting scenes, the rankings that we did that were very successful. Would that same application work for anti-vaxxers, as an example, where if you think about the crowds of brilliant scientists globally who believe in vaccines, should that be the definitive statement to those that don't believe in it, that we've collected the gigantic amount of brain power in the world and they concur on this, you should follow along, even though you might be smart too. Does that follow?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so the fundamental story of this whole field is this thing about guessing the weight of the bull. Do you guys know this story?
No.
Gross story from like medieval times where in England at some country fair, I think it was a dead bull, and which is the thing you bring to a fair. Come on. So they had a competition where everybody had to guess the weight of the bull, and the winner won something. And some brilliant guy was like, can I take all of the guesses, all of the little pieces of paper in the bucket, right? And so you graph all the guesses. And the graph, interestingly, is the crowd is almost perfect.
Yeah. I've seen people do that with like M&Ms or things in the jar or chat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like nobody in the crowd knows. Like nobody.
But the crowd knows.
The crowd
The
knows.
people who guess high are just about as wrong as the people who guess low, and they cancel each other out. And so like this is how bees build hives, right? It's like no one knows. There's no design for the hive, but everyone does their little job, and it becomes a hive, right? So there's I don't know. Smarter people than me should answer your question, David. But I think there probably is or the other one was there's like a plane lost at sea, and they basically asked the crowd to like figure out where it crashed based on the available knowledge, and the crowd was like pretty accurate. And on and on. But
it also
there are a lot of rules around like which questions are smart to ask. But
it kind of
the
requires
racism rankings, I think,
to see everything as like one fundamental truth, right? Like there is a bull, there is a plane. Whereas I think, you look at vaxxers or you look at racism and people are like, race doesn't exist. And then some people are like, it does. Or people don't even want to believe in science. I think if we get that one fundamental truth, it could work.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a really good
That's the
point.
crazy thing though, right? How did we get to a point where science, like actual data and evidence that has been studied over years, turned itself into, from the larger collective body, a left-right issue? Like, this is what we're arguing here. Like, oh, if you believe in science, you're a leftist. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, this is an actual proven thing. How does that make me a leftist? Like, what?
Oh, go make me grab another book. We're almost out of time. But
I also need to see your full bookshelf one day. Speaking of science, though, 0 cases in the bubble, and Dr. Rivers was like,
Yeah.
we should send our plan to the White House. And I was like, ooh, shots fired.
yeah. Jarod, let's have a whole show on what Jarod just asked. I feel like that's a great topic.
Yes,
That's a
it
good
is.
topic.
How do we get away from science? Just
It's like, what?
straight up.
It's always been.
I blame
religion.
Kyrie Irving with the world is flat stuff. That's what happened.
Well, David, the senator from one of the senators from your state says, like, we got to reopen schools. And then the press person asked him, well, what about your grandkids? They go, nope, they're distance learning. It's like, wait, what?
Oh, it's even worse than that. The governing body for sports in Florida decided that they're not going to delay the season for the athletes in high school in Florida, but they made that decision in a conference virtually.
Yes. They would not meet in a room. And I'm like,
I've been vocal on Facebook and my little place in Florida where my kids are grown now, so I don't have the choice. But if my son was playing high school basketball this year, he wouldn't be playing. I would have to make the choice in this summer. If he played football, he wouldn't be playing. And I wouldn't be sending them to school. They'd be homeschooling.
Gentle reminder, they're happy with you risking your life and your family's lives. They're not risking theirs.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday, we're going to have a pretty cool guest on the show, thanks to David, who's kind of a brilliant
Harvard doctor.
Way more hope about reopening schools and
me too.
our lives than any other thing from just listening to this guy talk about how we can all be tested and we could stop outbreaks with available technology.
Game changer. Just think game changer.
Game changer.
That's why we're doing. That's why he's going to come on, as he wants NBA teams to talk about it.
Yeah.
We need to get the message out because he's trying. Yeah, he's a Harvard doctor. He's no dummy. I will tell you, I sent his stuff to Henry and Jane McManus and Dana Smith, 3 of the smartest people I know. They were very happy. They were very impressed. Yeah, I sent you. You were first.
I know. I was just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm not
everyone was very happy. I think Jane wrote back like, "How did I know?" Oh, Dana wrote, "How did I know about this?" Like it was. There's just so much going on. Things get lost.
Yeah.
But let's have hope. But anyway, I'll be watching games the next 2 days. Don't bother me.
Good luck. Those are games. Those are scrimmages.
Yeah, right. Scrimmages. You're right. Not games. You're right.
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Jarod. Thank you, David. Thank you, Judy.
bye, everyone.